Hi, everyone out there. We are live. Hi, everyone. We are just going to wait until a few people jump on. We're a few seconds early. Last time we jumped on and we're on time, but people took a while to come on. So welcome, everyone. We're just going to wait a while we get a few people jump on. We are here tonight with special guests Shannon Christie from MVP Studio. He is the technology manager there, and Lance is one of our past participants who is a test analyst now and has been for about coming up, how long, 3 years, 4 years, Lance?
Yeah, almost 4 years. Yeah,
almost 4 years. So he's got some cool things to share as well. So as you are all coming on, please note that I've put a comment in there. Now, if you want to ask questions or comment and everything like that, please click on the streamyard.com/Facebook link that I've put in the comments. Give us permission so that we can see your name and see your comment, your questions, so that we can answer those right here live tonight. We'll do our best to answer all those questions. Okay, hi there, Misha. How are you? Good to see you. And guys, as you're coming on, as I said, click on that StreamYard Facebook link to give permission. And then I'd love to see, as usual, where you are coming in from. Are you coming in from the UK, Ireland, Singapore, Hong Kong, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand? Where in the world are you coming in from? So just put them in the comments down there. I love it when people start commenting. This is an interactive live, everyone. So comment in there. Drop us in some questions down there in the comments, and we will get to them as best we can as we go throughout this live. So this live tonight, guys, is all about all things test analyst, okay? All things test analyst. And we've got two awesome guys here that are going to share a bit of their knowledge, as well as experience, as well as some tips, I think, as well. So that's exciting. Awesome. So awesome. Melbourne in the house, Australia in the house. Hello, Mia. We've got New Zealand in the house. Come on, guys. Put in there where you're coming in from. It's good to interact with you. Drop me in a comment in there. Okay. And if you're going to watch this replay, #replay and put your comments in there as well. Okay, so we're just going to kick it off. We've got 11 people on here already, 12. They're all starting to clock up. I know it's a bit funny times in some areas of the world, but never mind. You can watch the replay. It's all good. You're not going to lose out. So, guys, I'm just going to be looking at our Facebook page on my phone here just to make sure everything is ticking along okay, and that I can see everything so we don't miss anything. Don't want to miss anything. So we are live. It's all good. Wonderful. Wonderful. Fantastic. Look like we are ready to roll. All right. So let's kick it off. Like I said, we have Shannon Christie, the technology manager at MVP Studio with us tonight, and Lance, who is a past participant. He is now a test analyst with a company here in Auckland. So I'm just going to first off, to kick it off, I'm going to pull out Lance to come on out and give us a bit of a backstory on how you came to be with or go through our program, Lance. Share with everyone, because your story is a little bit different. Just share that so people get a picture of who you are.
Okay. So hi guys from anywhere in the world right now. Yeah. So my story is a little bit different because we got some information from school after we graduated. Then there's a program running by the immigration and the education department.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So we really lucky got a chance to participate that 6-week bootcamp program. That time is really interesting because we literally, like everyone else in the world, like graduate, no experience, then kind of join that program. Yeah, I think been there 6 weeks. Then I try to learn as much as I can. The tutor, the people there are super supportive. Yeah, so I'm able to find job after like 3 or 4 weeks search, which is really lucky compared to any
You
other
did well, Lance.
Yeah, so it's like good timing. Yeah, so for me right now it's like almost 4 years in a company as a test analysis. So yeah, today if you guys have any question, feel free to ask because I think I might be share some point where can help the people who are sitting between the graduate try to land your first job. That period is a little bit, yeah, so a little bit special, but just gonna, everyone have to experience that period. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much, Lance. It'll be good to hear some tips from you to sharing on, getting that first job or whatever. Because, sometimes people don't understand how to do it or where to go or whatever. So it'd be really awesome to hear some tips from you on that. So everyone, Lance actually joined Industry Connect, just a little bit more on that. We ran a scholarship program in conjunction with Immigration New Zealand and Education New Zealand, and this was a few years ago. If the years just fly by, and we had all these applications come in, and so the general manager and I would go through every application and shortlist. Then we would get every person in that we shortlisted to interview them, and then from there we would then shortlist again, and then they would get the scholarship. So it was a big thing that Lance went through. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, you've got it. He had to go through certain steps, and we looked at attitude as well, which was a massive thing. So well done, Lance, and you proved that everything works, and you got a job really quickly. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Lance. So next we have Mr. Shannon Christie. Thank you so much, Shannon, for joining us tonight. Share a little bit of who you are, Shannon, so everyone knows.
Okay, all right, thanks for that, Carla. Yeah, it's good to be here. So I'm the technology manager at MVP Studio. So anyone that comes through the training, because of our partnership with Industry Connect, we provide the internship part after you complete your training. So it's definitely one of the things that I'm most involved in. So of course, going through IT industry, software and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot of common problems around the world that face this issue of no local experience. And how do you get started when jobs are saying, we expect you to have 2 or 3 years experience? And well, how do you get started? They already expect something.
Yes, that's so true, isn't it? But I'm sure you're going to share a bit on that too.
Yeah. So awesome. Of course, you want me to share it now, or I can share it a bit later on?
You can share a little bit later on. We're just going to head into test analyst stuff, actually. Like, this is all about test analyst, okay? So everyone, we have a job ready program, which is specifically addressing test analyst, okay? So I'm going to ask Shannon, just because I know that I touch on this, and we meet a lot of people that have manual testing, but they don't have automation testing. So Shannon, can you just share a little bit about automation testing and what it involves and the importance of it, et cetera, et cetera? Because I know you guys you use it in your projects.
Yeah,
so it's really important.
Yeah, definitely. So of course, in the older days, a lot of people are doing manual testing around the place. That's just kind of how it was. And I know that a lot of people have that experience, and then they come over to Australia, New Zealand, UK, and many other places, or maybe you're just already here. Basically, these days, we're trying to always improve efficiency. So we want to be able to automate as much as possible. We want to be able to have a situation where we don't have too much of a reliance on maybe you forget to test one part, maybe you forget to do the regression testing, and it can take too long sometimes to do it all manually. So we want to have automation testing. We want to have the computer take care of these things for us, one, so they can do it quickly and go through all the tests, making sure that we're not missing anything important, and improve efficiency in the whole process. We can add it into one of the continuous integration pipelines or something like that, and it just runs by itself. Of course, having that experience in manual testing is still valuable. It's still something that you take over to automation testing. But in this current climate and the way that everything is going, we're getting more and more digital. You really need to have those skills in being able to do automated testing and being able to set up these things that can run by themselves, that this computer can do it for you, make sure it gets everything, smoke testing, regression testing, and everything else. So you'll find that pretty much everyone expects you to have automation testing experience now, to have that skill. And that's something that you get experience with the internship, because we need to use it in our projects as well.
Right. And what about manual testing in your projects? Are you using that in any of the projects as well to kind of like hone those skills as well?
Yeah. Well, there will always be an element of manual testing. You need to quite often do exploratory testing to get started in the process, to check things out, to make sure you have an understanding of how the project works. And there are some things that it's a little bit hard to do with automated testing, some things that are better done by a person who has understanding about how the whole thing should work. So there are definitely some areas where you need some manual testing. But still, you do your best to have as much of it automated as possible. And as time goes by, you start to have more and more things being able to be automated.
Right. And so with automation testing, because I know we have a lot of people that come in, like I said, that have a lot of, they've had manual testing experience from overseas, and they haven't got any programming. They don't have any knowledge of programming. What's some suggestions, or what would you say about that?
Okay. Yeah, well, that's an interesting question to get started with. Of course, it's one of those things that you really need to aim towards gaining those skills. So, of course, you can do study and things like that to build it up. You can do practice and so on. Of course, if you do the training with Industry Connect, that gives you some of the fundamentals and the basics. And then, of course, you can do the internship to actually cement and practice what you've learnt, which is, of course, important. Theory is one thing, having the practical is another. There are just some things you don't really come across in we'll say, sterile environments where you're practicing things or learning the theory of it. You get into an actual project and it doesn't work quite the same way.
Yes. Yeah. Lance, what about you where you're working? What would you say percentage-wise is manual and automation?
For me, it's a little bit different. So when I was intern at Industry Connect, we done lots of training on the automation part. So when I actually start my job as a contract, I do lots of manual work. So
Right.
I understand both sides of the story. So you have lots of manual testing, then what kind of things could be automated. That's the repetitive work. You need some skill to support you to create something. From the automation side, like the automation will help you, but I feel they might have a little bit curve that you can learn how much the machine can do. It's like both sides of the story, but automation definitely can help lots of work, like repetitive work, like the smoke tests, or you integrate with those things like a gated check-in stuff, which is gonna help you when some code check-in in the bigger project. They can save lots of efforts to just trying to figure out what could go wrong by just running the automation all the time.
Right.
Also, I got something I wanted to share for people who only got the manual experience. Probably you might feel like it might be advantageous, but the same time, when you do the manual testing, you kind of like practice your mind how to analysis things. So that could be your selling point in terms of like be a better tester, or when you write automation, when you have the skill to write automation, you might think about something that some people couldn't. So I enjoy the part of the manual testing because that's really the time you dig into the product. Like Shannon mentioned, it's like purely product knowledge. Then you can really testing in depth rather than you spend your efforts on the repetitive work that can be easily done by automation. Yeah, that's my
right. Okay. Oh, awesome. Thanks so much, Lance, for sharing that. That's awesome. So I had like an idea too, because people go on that they're talking about they do their ISTQB. Okay. So let's put it out there. What is it necessary to have ISTQB to be a test analyst?
I can start. So for me, again, it's like a little bit of funny story. So actually, I don't have the certificate first, but interesting enough, through the like first year or two when I work, then when I study the material afterwards, kind of like everything just click. The thing you're seeing on the company actually is what ISTB trying to teach you. So if you really don't have the experience, those things might be something give you some idea how the real life work environment might feels like. Not exactly, but you get some idea of the process. Yeah.
Wonderful. Shannon, anything else to add there?
Yeah, I'd like to add that quite often when it comes to certifications and qualifications and things like that, there's no real downside to getting them. It's one of those things that it definitely helps you to have kind of an edge, but at the same time, it's not necessary. With quite a lot of things with software, qualifications and certifications and things like that, they're definitely useful, but it's not something that you have to get started. The experience is the most important part. It's more important than certifications and so on. More or less, like Lance said, that it's something that you can have in the beginning when you're not really quite sure what you can show off. But definitely, if you have that experience, it's going to be much more valuable to worry about that part.
Yeah, more powerful, if you get to put that on your CV as well as you've got something to talk about in that interview. You've been doing XYZ in this project as you've been an intern with MVP Studio, etc. So yeah, that local experience is the big thing, is the big thing that you need to get your foot in the door to actually be able to present yourself and say, hey, this is me. I just wanted to touch on Shannon as well in the automation testing, because Shannon, like I said, is with MVP Studio, and once you complete the Test Analyst Job Ready program, which is 6 weeks with us, we've partnered with MVP Studio, and they then you do the internship with MVP Studio. So Shannon, because we work closely as well with what we teach in our programs are market driven, is what the market is calling for, where there is more positions out there in the market. Now, just touching on the back in that automation testing again, because I know this is a big thing here in the marketplace, and in our programs, like I said, we work closely with you, because everyone that goes through our programs, the skill set that they have is then carried over to exact kind of skill set that MVP Studio projects are utilizing. In saying that, what kind of things for automation testing do you use? Like C# and everything like that, Selenium-Webdriver. Tell us a bit more about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, as you mentioned, that what you train and everything is the same technologies that we work with in the internship. So of course, a lot of people in the regions that we're in use these technologies. We're using them because they are popular, because they are demanded in the industry. So we use C# for the language. So as part of .NET framework, we use things like NUnit as the testing framework to drive it all. We're using Selenium for the WebDriver so that we can test our websites. Also, during the internship, we have things using like Postman, for example, for testing APIs, and using JMeter for load testing, making sure that your site or service can stay in a good position and not start failing or falling over when it starts to experience load. So of course we need to run all these tests against our own services to make sure that we've got the quality that we're after. And that means that you get to have all the experience of seeing how we test our services, seeing how we make sure that things behave the way they're supposed to, and that it's not a case of two people get online and everything crashes and burns. So testing is, of course, important for that load testing, making sure that your server can handle it, testing integration, testing to make sure that everything all comes together correctly, that we're not releasing any critical issues with any of the services that we are working on developing, launching, and everything else. So I think that's kind of the main things I can think of right now in terms of the technologies that we use for testing our services and such.
Oh, wonderful. Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that, Shannon. And that kind of like, in a nutshell, is what we're actually teaching, our tutors teach within our Test Analyst Job Ready program. So also just want to touch on the manual testing, you know, because there might be some people out there that want to be a tester, but they've got neither. Okay. So as a manual testing, like everyone, I'm not technological in that sense, like that side. So that's why I'm asking these questions. With the manual testing, what types of things do they do? What is it?
Mm-hmm. You want to say something, Lance?
Yeah. I mean, actually, I feel manual testing quite be really like different. Depends on what type of person you are. Yeah. So I mean, from the manual testing wise, yeah, like the easiest thing might be like the UI. You know, you compare all the things you've seen, and then you can start to from like testing as a user. You know, like if you are the actual user, how you're gonna use the app, then you kind of like expand your idea. Like, oh, when it's on Wi-Fi, what app could behave? When it's on like data, what app could behave? Then it's like a little brainstorming every day when you're doing the manual testing. Same time, product knowledge. You have to understand how each part interact with each other element, so that can help you. But otherwise, you still could be okay just testing whatever you've seen. It's not like manual testing is really interesting. It's not like absolutely standard. So you could be okay, you could be awesome, but still get the job done.
Still get the job done.
Yeah, you can't get the perfect like bug-free app. So
awesome. Thanks so much, Lance. So Shannon, you're the technology manager at MVP Studio. When you are working with a test analyst, how do you work? Because it's a bit different, eh? Software developer, test analyst. How do you work within a project with a test analyst? I mean, because why I ask this is that a lot of people say that nowadays, there's a lot of software developers that are doing the testing as well. So obviously you in your projects have the software developers and then you have the test analysts. Tell me, like, what is your kind of, how do you manage that? Like how does a software developer and a test analyst, how do you work with a test analyst?
Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I believe I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so yes, there are definitely times when developers do quite a bit of testing. They tend to focus more on things like unit testing and so on, where they're just kind of testing that the code has been written more or less in the right way, that things kind of work fairly well. And then when it comes to testers, I think it's still about kind of like manpower and time and things like that. You can't really get one person to do everything and do everything well and to understand every aspect of their trade perfectly. So having someone who's specialized in testing, who has a better idea, that that approach as well in their mind of how should I go about testing things. That part can vary sometimes with developers, that they might not necessarily have that same perspective on how to test things, because, well, sometimes you're the one who wrote the code. It's a bit hard to to think about exactly how you should break it. I think in that regard, having another person external of your role and external of developers and things like that, they're more likely to just come at it from a different angle. Yeah,
it's like, I think it's just like, you know, when you write something, you can look over it before you press that send, or you publish that. You look over it, and you think, yes, it's all good. Then you click that send or that publish, and you go, oh no, because someone points something out to you. Similar.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a good way of looking at it, as one part of how testers really help in the whole process of having someone who's capable of being a bit more external, a bit disconnected from the code in some cases, although there are definitely times when testers are well aware of the code and such as well, that they can come from that other angle and have a bit of a clearer mind when looking at the whole thing. I think that there's definitely those times when developers, we write code and think, oh yes, as long as it's run this way, it's fine. Actually, what happens if it doesn't go the way you expect? So in that case, it's about working with testers. It's about assisting and making sure that everyone has a clear idea on the requirements of the software of the project. So that's definitely something that's really important for testers, and I guess at the end of the day, developers as well. That you understand what the goals are, understand what the requirements are, so that way you have a better idea on what is the end user expecting, what do you need to test to make sure that things are integrated correctly, that things behave the way they are supposed to. So you definitely get a lot of collaboration. Well, I should say it varies from company to company, but there can be times with a lot of collaboration between the testers and the developers, basically like pairing in a way, where you will say, okay, I've developed this feature, the tester will want to know more details about the whole thing, the developer should be sharing that information, and they work together to test things and providing kind of like feedback to each other. So testers are really integral and important to that process to make sure that everything is developed well. And of course, setting up all of those automated tests and things like that is super valuable in the process of developing higher quality software, making sure that it's tested as soon as it's checked into a repository like Git or something like that, just making sure that everything is running efficiently. And that's really where the two roles complement each other really well. There's just some things that it's too hard to get the developer to do everything, and testers have that different perspective. They can really add a lot to making sure that the quality of the software is a lot higher. If you just had developers, I don't think you'd be able to guarantee that as much.
Yeah. You can get a bit precious too, eh? It's the same with everything. You get a bit precious about your baby that you've You get precious.
Yeah. So you definitely need someone that can come from that outside perspective, have a look at it, and really see it clearly, and not let someone be distracted by, oh, I wrote it, so I expect it to just work, basically.
Yeah. So close communication with the software developer and everything. I suppose, like in another way of looking at it, that a test analyst would have to be really good at communicating and being able to extract from the software developer sometimes, you know, what are you trying to do here and everything, so that they can do what they need to do to test it. So would you say that's correct in saying that the communication of a test analyst has to be able to extract stuff from the software developer so they can do what they have to do, and then also relay it back as to what they found, etc.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think in that regard, having good communication is important in any company, really. Being able to communicate with management and your co-workers and everything else. But of course, I feel like maybe especially for testers, it's really important to have that communication and the right attitude and everything when it comes to approaching your developers when you're trying to get information, approaching management and so on when you're trying to understand. You know, you need to have those soft skills of being able to approach people, talk to them, find out what they're after, and do it all in such a way that it flows well. So having the right attitude and those communication skills, I think, are really important for testing in a company to be able to get those requirements and everything else as well.
Yeah. Anything to add there, Lance?
Yeah, so I'm gonna follow up the point Shannon just mentioned it. Like what we just working on the project where we support iOS 14. It's just come out. So
Yes.
in terms of the beta testing, are we testing everything, or we check with the dev, see from the iOS developer side what kind of things, those target area that Apple change a lot, so they can provide something that for us to have an area to target it on in terms of like testing coverage. Yeah, so I think that's a really good point. After that was sorry, I kind of forgot what's the second thing I tried to say. Yeah, so actually QA or test analysis is a good, like, just try to bridge the gap between the dev side and the QA side to make sure the quality is high. Also the communication skills, because you're gonna dealing with business analysis, probably a product owner or developer, because your like mindset's more like you want to improve the quality. So if there's something people didn't aware, so you're gonna voice out mentioning how you're gonna like voice out the concern.
Yes.
Also, same time when you report a bug or defect, you're gonna write as clear as you can. So even someone without the background, they should read like first step, second step, rather than if it's something only like developer can understand. And that's another thing that requires for test analysis. You gotta be able to writing down stuff, also communicate with people. Yeah.
Right, so written as well. That's, yes, very, very good point, Lance. Good point. Thank you for sharing that. So everyone, I don't see any of your comments, so we're waiting for some questions. We're here, and if you want to ask any questions, because we're wrapping up soon, just hit that the streamyard.com/Facebook link that is in the comments right here. This one right here, it is in the comments. Click on that, give permission so that we can see your comments, your questions, and then we can ask your questions. Okay, so just pop in over to the comments and click on that link and give permission. So I know, Lance, we were talking before we went live about what people do to when they start looking for jobs.
Yeah.
You had a few things you'd like to, some tips or some advice for some of our people here.
Yeah. So okay, should I sign off?
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. So there's a few points. So the first one will be your LinkedIn profile. I didn't realize before, like I thought LinkedIn just like, like Facebook. But right now I realize that thing's way more powerful. Sometimes the job comes up, you thought like Seek or whatever your local job hunting website will have the latest information. But actually, like LinkedIn have lots of recruiter over there or company HR. They will post on LinkedIn first. So if you have enough connection, you might see it first, or you just see from someone's like or someone's comments, then you can see those information, which is highly underrated, I think, right now. So people should start to work on that, make your profile looks professional, and I think that's a really good point, because right now I guess all the HR kind of checking your LinkedIn profile as well, so that's a good thing.
Everyone does that. Everyone checks, and they'll check your social media as well. Your Facebook, whatever, they'll want to check to see who is this person. So, it's everything's out there available for HR or whoever to look at to be able to see who you are. But LinkedIn, Lance, that's an awesome tip to be able to, get it all looking professional and everything. To introduce yourself, it's like your business card to the industry.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there's a,
Can I just jump in here, Lance, because we have a couple of questions.
oh,
There's a question here. Do developers give testers a hard time sometimes, Lance? And if they do, how do you deal with it?
I guess number one, treat it professionally. Yeah, I mean, just a communication thing, because like sometimes people doing things with different mindsets, so you're gonna really communicate like how you find this issue, or yeah, end of the day, it's like people to people, like even communication, you still need to try to communicate with people, because end of the day you are like in a team environment, so yeah, you really need to sort out this communication part. I guess it's like a part of the soft skill you need to have. Yeah.
Yes, and I suppose not being able to not be emotional about it.
Yeah,
Emotional intelligence, emotional maturity is really, really important as well when you're working, especially if you've got massive deadlines in a project.
Sure.
And guys, you get into these, as the time gets closer, it's like and more time spent but then emotional intelligence as well, to be able to communicate still in a way that's professional, that you get the job done and the outcome is what is expected. Shannon, anything that you would like to add to that?
Yeah, I'd also be interested to add a bit more of just when dealing kind of like with anyone in a professional environment. Of course, you need to try and think about it from their perspective. I know that can be hard sometimes, especially when someone's maybe not approaching in the most polite way, which can happen, when people have got a lot of pressure on them and things like that. So it's important to be considerate, to be understanding, respectful of people's time. Remember that, we're all human beings at the end of it all. So we need to think about, maybe they're just under a lot of pressure. Maybe there's a lot of things going on for them at the moment. So do your best to approach it in a way that's appropriate. Try to think about their situation, approach it in a way that isn't going to just spark up more trouble or anything like that, because that's not really what you want to have in a professional environment. And if you can understand the perspective and kind of show them to that and explain to them what's going on, it's the best way usually of taking care of that situation, kind of like disarming it and getting things back on track. So that's what I can mainly think of at this stage when it comes to dealing with people that can give you a bit of a hard time. It does happen every now and then. It really depends on the company and stuff like that. Just there can be a lot of pressure sometimes, but I would say that for the most part, it's pretty good. As long as you treat them with respect, they will treat you with respect. That's how it always tends to go.
I've got another question here. Thanks, guys. From Piper Way, during this tough economic time, many companies are no longer hiring junior testers. Any advice? Oh, she's asking, how about your company, Lance? Good one, Piper.
I don't think we are hiring right now, but yeah, again, like these kind of things, like no one can see this happening or what kind of situation we are facing right now. So I guess you're just gonna have a hope, like keep doing what you're doing, and at the same time, like before this whole thing happens, I watched some video on YouTube, people saying like that's the best time to learn. So this time everyone stay at home, they didn't progress as much, but that's the good time if you are like thinking to learn something, because when everyone back to work, you'll be the one who's outstanding. That's like a really good mindset. So if it's like, especially you're looking for junior roles, that's the time where it gets a little bit frustrating, because you want to get in the industry so bad, but just like frustrating. But again, this is the only way. Is like keep doing what you're doing and keep learning, then definitely you will have the opportunities.
Exactly. Another tip though too, Piper, look at companies that
career side
that you're interested in. Why not approach them as well? Why not be the you going to approaching them instead of waiting for something to be advertised? Because a lot of times as well, Piper, jobs aren't actually advertised. A lot of times some jobs aren't advertised. So you could do you could look for jobs as well, you know, seek and everything like that, but also look at companies that you'd be really excited to work for, you know, and just make contact with them, see what's happening, you know, introduce yourself, because that actually will get them thinking, wow, this person's just coming to us, they're presenting themselves, etc., etc. You know, it'll keep you in their mind that you stepped out of the normal to engage with them. So there's always these other ways, not the same old way. And again, LinkedIn as well, Piper, like Lance said, get your LinkedIn all looking good and professional and put it on there. I know you can do it on LinkedIn where you are looking, you know, you're available. So then when recruitment agencies or companies are looking for someone, they have an HR, they might come across your profile, then they might reach out to you. So there's another tip for you as well, Piper. Anything from you, Shannon?
Yeah, so of course, I think there's some great points that you both brought up, Carla and Lance. So yeah, definitely LinkedIn is super important. Your presence online really means a lot to people. They will just, well, Google search you. They will check to see what is your presence. So I guess give a little bit of thought to what that looks like. When people search for you, do they find you? What kind of things do they find? So that's something that you care about, kind of like your brand in a way, kind of who you are. So give some thought to that. Make sure you keep your LinkedIn up to date. So, you know, keep the photo up to date. If you updated it and it's been like 2-3 years, you probably want to go and update it to show that you're actually doing something. Having a blog can be useful. Doing posts on LinkedIn, all of this stuff is useful for showing that you're active, that you're doing something. I also think it's great that you mentioned about how you can just go to a company, even if they're not necessarily advertising right at that moment. There have been times where you just contact them and they're like, well, actually, we didn't really plan on it, but you showed up and you seem to be really interested and you have a lot of great qualities. We'll just make the position for you, basically. So of course, it's not like a perfect, that will always happen, but it is still a thing that one of the elements of getting into a job is standing out. So why not think a little bit outside of the box and try something that other people don't really consider, you know? So talk to them, find out if there's any opportunities. It's also great to try and make connections with that company. So try and find people who are working there, try and connect with them on LinkedIn. Of course, try to be polite in that process. Don't just like hit connect and not say anything. You know, you want to connect to them. You want to indicate the value of getting to know each other. You know, this needs to be about what's in it for them. What's the benefit that they can get by having your connection? So that would be your idea when you're approaching them. Get to know them. Find out, you know, are there any roles? What's the company about? All this stuff will show how dedicated and passionate you are about the whole role. So when an opportunity shows up, potentially they can just put you forward. Oh, I already know someone. They connected with me on LinkedIn, and you would be the first person to get in, basically.
Great, awesome advice there, Shannon and Lance. Thank you so much. Another thing as well, networking, everyone. Networking is so important when you're in IT. Network. Go to meetups, you know, look for your local meetups, create a meetup. I don't know, you know, there's ways in which you can start being known, meeting new people, because it's all about who you know when you're starting to get into that thing of getting, you know, getting a job. You need to look at all these different ways in which you can connect. So go to meetups, go start networking within little, I don't know, I know there's a lot online. Google it. Google it. So Lance, hold on, we've got another question. Hold on, we have another question, guys. What happens when there's a bug found on production, but it is under the testing coverage? Is that the developers or testers taking more responsibility?
Well, I think it would be still one of those things that ideally that the responsibility is shared. I don't necessarily think it's fair to just say, oh, it's all their fault.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah. So, I mean, I think ideally it should be shared. It should be a case of, oh, there's an issue here. We've identified it on production. What are the steps that we can take immediately to try and resolve it? So both sides would really be taking initiative there to work on coming up with a solution and thinking about how to try and avoid that kind of situation again in the future. So I don't think you should really get too much into a blame game or anything like that of saying, oh, it's all this person's fault, all that person's fault, or the tester should have caught it, or the developer shouldn't have made the bug in the first place. Mistakes and things like that happen. So yeah, I think that it should be shared. We should focus on fixing it is the most important part and resolving any issues there.
Awesome. Lance, have you had anything to say there?
Yeah, I guess when it's happened, it happened. But yeah, I think the more important thing is how you learn from it. Same time, it's like you maybe before the production, someone found a defect, you look at the defect, you try to understand how that person thinks, then you might learn, oh, I could test the same thing this way. So if that thing happens in the production, definitely they have like a more element mixed up, like how the defect or bug appears. So you can learn from that too, then becoming like a whole practice of the whole working as a team rather than like the finger point like of someone's responsibility. But end of the day, just
you're a team in the end.
yes. End of the day, if you just try to blame someone, doesn't help the things. But rather than you take it like positively, then everyone can learn something.
Yeah, there's a bug. Okay, let's fix it. Let's find out how we're, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Oh, we have another question, guys, from Piper. She says, "Thanks, guys." She's been in touch. She's been touching HR and some senior testers on LinkedIn recently. She'll improve some more. Awesome, Piper. Good. That's awesome. Awesome. And start posting too, Piper. Start posting some of the stuff that you're doing on LinkedIn. It's really great to start posting so people can see that you're active, like Shannon was saying. Another question, she says, is what tools or knowledge can we learn except Selenium can let us land a junior job successfully?
I don't think that there's any particular thing of you just study this one thing or you just learn this one extra tool and you've got it. I think a lot of it is still about working on your understanding of the skills that you do have. You know, diversifying too much can lead to a situation where you know a lot of different things kind of well, but not any one thing that well. So I think it's good to focus on these core parts like Selenium, focus on C# and the things that you're aiming for to get that experience so that you have a good understanding of that. And also think about when it comes to the jobs and things like that, that attitude and everything is one of the most important parts, I think, for junior roles, of having this drive, having this can-do attitude, having this you want to succeed in this, and showing your passion when it comes to applying for roles. So do your research on the company, learn about what they're about, show that you really care about what's going on there. And I think that would be kind of one of the bigger things in quite a few cases when it comes to getting into the junior roles. Showing that attitude would be a bigger part, showing your ability to deal with people. So in terms of like the tools and technologies, I think pretty much just keep focusing on what you're already doing. Just get better at it, rather than thinking, oh, if I understand just this one extra thing, it will be there. So as long as you have Selenium, as long as you have an understanding of Postman and JMeter and things like that, I think you've covered those bases pretty well. So just keep going further with that. If you feel like you have any particular weakness in something, if you feel your load testing with JMeter is a bit weak, then you can put a bit more time into that. But focus more on kind of the soft skills, focus on making sure that you present yourself in that way to the company. Your technical skills are important, but your attitude will get you there. You can have good skills. If you go to the interview and your presentation doesn't come off quite right, well, it kind of didn't really matter that you had those skills.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shannon. Lance, have you got anything to add to Shannon's?
Yeah, similar things. You have to identify what kind of skill you have, which one, like, what's your strong point. Yeah, same time, like, it doesn't matter what kind of language because I don't say it's easy to learn other language, but it can help you understand. Like, if you know C#, then Java will be like kind of familiar. Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, every company do things differently. Eventually, you might know C#, but you might end up doing a job where you're gonna use in Java for. At the same time, it's a junior job. It won't require you to do like a really complicated stuff. So you still got lots of time to learn, and like it's more than the technical part that you show them your potential, you show your passion. I think Ray always mentioned about the passion thing. Yeah, that's
Yes.
the thing. It's more important. Yeah.
And your learner's hat. You're always open to learning and learning more. Not that you've learnt the set and then that's it for the rest of your life. It's ongoing all the time. Having the learner's attitude and the passion. Yeah. Moosh is asking, how important is local experience? Local experience is really, really important. Employers are that's basically what they're wanting to see, that you have some local experience. Now, with MVP Studio being a global company, so we partner with them, that they're global. So when you do the internship, you're actually getting local experience. Okay. So, Shannon, anything to add to that?
Yeah. So yes, local experience is important. It's about showing your cultural fit. It's about showing that you have the ability to work with a team and having basically kind of like proof that you can deal with people. They want to make sure that you're going to get in, that you have worked on these things. You're not unaware of how it works in a team environment. You're not going to have any strange quirks when it comes to dealing with people in a team. So you want that experience, and more specifically, all of the companies will want that experience. So you definitely need to have that if you want to have a good shot at getting into things. As I kind of mentioned in the beginning, it's a little bit of a difficult situation for if you don't have something like the internship to do. How do you get started when they want that 2 years experience, but you've got nothing to start with? So that's kind of the hard part for a lot of people. And an internship with MVP Studio and doing things like that can really be a way to kickstart and get you out there so that you can actually start to get somewhere, so that you can start to build up that experience.
And that experience goes on your CV too. That experience goes on your CV. When you undertake one of our job ready programs, like I've said before, it's 6 weeks, and then you go over to the internship, which is fully mentored, everyone. It's fully mentored. It's not like you are going to some internships that you end up making cups of teas and coffee. It's fully mentored. So MVP Studio have got a structured week for you. We've also, we have put together workshops on communication, on employability, CV writing, etc. that is in the actual internship as well. So there's workshops for you to be a part of, to learn even more of those soft skills, your written skills as well. So you get all of that is in the internship side after you completed one of our 6-week job ready programs. So there you go. I've got a thing. Oh, Piper says, thank you, everyone. Thanks, guys. She said, thanks. The session's really helpful. You're welcome, Piper. Olivia Yang, how do we find internship? Oh, Olivia, like I just said, the internship is a gifted internship. After you've completed our 6-week job ready program, you go over to the internship, which is with MVP Studio, who Shannon Christie is part of. He's a technology manager there. So that is what you go over into the internship after you've completed the job ready program. Okay, Olivia, I suggest that anyone that is on here tonight, that if you have not signed up for the information pack, pop over to our website. We will put in the website here right now. Pop over there, fill out the form, and what you'll get is an email with an information pack. There'll be a video to watch so that you understand the whole journey that you go through with us, the process, okay? And as well as that, in that email, there's an attachment, which is a PDF attachment that gives the program schedule outline for all of our Job Ready programs. So you understand what you're going to be learning within those 6 weeks under each program, okay? So I'm just going to put in here our, oh, there we go. One of the team have put in there right now. Here we go. If you go here, everyone, it's in the comments. This is the info pack link. Pop in there in the comments, click on that, fill out your details, and then you will receive that information pack. So just to wrap up now, guys, any last words for our test analysts out there? They're thinking, everyone.
Yeah, it's I still feel like one of the key parts is have that goal. You know, you want to be a test analyst, so you're going to strive towards that. You know, set that goal that you want to achieve it by 6 months from now, 3 months from now, whatever it is, and start taking steps towards it. So having that passion, having the drive, having something to focus on is important. Remember that mistakes and failures are all just part of the learning experience. You know, it can be a bit challenging when you're getting started in these things, but just keep pushing through is the important part. Get that experience, work on your soft skills and things like that. It's important to have these soft skills. It's important to be able to deal with people. You might feel like when it comes to applying for jobs that it's, I don't know, mechanical or like some kind of machine you're dealing with, but often you're still dealing with people at the end of the day. So you want to come across as a real person. Memorizing answers to questions just makes you sound like a robot, and that's not going to get you very far. So really focus on that when it comes to the junior side of it. You want to show them that you can learn. Be interested in learning. That's one of the things, as well, as you mentioned earlier, and it's really important to remember that when you're in software, when you're in this industry, you will always be learning. You'll need to always keep yourself up to date. That's just part of the process. So be prepared to spend your time learning. It's not one of those things that, oh, I'm done, I've learnt this, it's over. There's always going to be something new for you to work on. There's always going to be something for you to get better with. So have that desire to do that. That's one of the key things I can think of mentioning at this stage.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shannon. Great advice. And that passion and going after what you want, that's always going to drive you. It'll keep you going. And when you get there, you'll always want to get out of bed in the morning. You know, you'll jump out of bed because it's your passion. So that's the perfect. Lance, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I guess just you learn a lot of things from those Job Ready program for sure. Yeah, so it's end of the day, it's like about the confidence, because it's a junior role. Definitely the presentation matters a lot. You know, like how you understand the culture. Like for me, I struggle the most at start was like the eye contact thing, because for me it's just not naturally to look at people's when I'm talking.
Yes.
My eyes might go look around and stuff. Yeah, so lots of these small detail things you might not aware, but they could help a lot. Definitely learn from the industry connect. Same time, you're just gonna be confident about what kind of skill you have and your passion. Again, if you graduate, people won't expect you from you a lot. You know, you will have some requirement, but end of the day, it's still like what type of person you are. That's really matters. Yeah.
Oh wow, thanks so much, Lance. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, guys, so much for being here tonight and for sharing and for your knowledge and everything. It was so good and great information, advice and everything. So thank you so much. Thanks everyone for watching. You can still comment in here later on if you watch the replay. So hashtag replay and comment, and we will actually answer those comments later on. Okay, thanks again, guys. That's a wrap, everyone. We'll catch you again next week with some other special guests. See you then.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.